Okay, welcome to the show. Can you introduce yourself before we get started? Sometimes I forget and that ends up in the middle of the show. So let's just
Yeah,
go right in with that. Just
yeah,
your name, what you're doing, and what you like to do for adventure.
sure. So my name's Ray Slater Berry. I am the founder of DSLX, which is a content agency for tech brands and their C-suite. We're on a mission to empower dyslexic and neurodiverse writers to write. And for my adventure, I'm a beach volleyball player. So I'm trying to play beach volleyball on as many beaches around the world. We're getting there slowly but surely, but I'm definitely a beach bum through and through.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's very fun. I started playing beach volleyball when I first moved to North Carolina a few years ago. I'd never played volleyball at all. And I
Oh,
was so surprised at how fun it was and how
oh, it's
easy it
amazing.
was.
Yeah.
And it's really not as hard on your body as some sports. Like I was playing soccer before I moved to North Carolina when I played beach volleyball. And I was like, wow, this is a lot less hard on your body than soccer was.
Yeah, that's tough. I used to do indoor volleyball and my knees were just destroyed.
Oh,
And on the
yeah.
beach, it's so much kinder to your body. And so it's one of the few sports I can do. I can't run because my knees are so messed up from indoor volleyball. So beach
Yeah.
volleyball for me is like really forgiving. I need that. You work harder because you're playing on sand, but
Yeah.
it's definitely kinder in that
Yeah.
respect.
I feel like you work harder in a way that's like, I'm okay with working harder, you know?
Yeah.
Like, okay, my glutes and my quads are getting more of a workout. I'm
Yeah.
fine with that.
And I'm on the beach. Like I'm normally surrounded by beautiful weather and incredible scenery. So no complaints. Absolutely no
Yeah.
complaints.
I always have this conversation with people who spend a lot of time outside. Are you like a sun shirt person, or are you the kind of person who's like, I guess I'll just put on some mineral sunscreen, I'll be fine?
Oh, I don't know. I'm kind of like scarred from my mum slapping sunscreen on me when I was younger. And I, it has taken me a long time to come around to putting it on myself. I think
Yeah.
I'm definitely like wiser about it now. And maybe I've started that too late. Like my mum's 64, 65 and has incredible skin. And I'm like,
Mm,
oh gosh, did I start too late? Like she's been doing it since she was 18. So we'll see. I'll keep you posted about the results. What about you?
I try to wear a sun shirt as much as possible, but the beach is hard. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna wear sunscreen at the beach. I put it on my face at least, but
Yeah.
I will burn. Like in North Carolina, like my legs would get burned first out of anything, which is really weird. I think
Yeah.
it's the reflection of the sun off the sand. But I have heard from my friends who have kids that they've started using a makeup brush to apply sunscreen,
Yeah.
and it feels better. And I'm like, maybe I should try that.
I heard that tactic because it's such a horrible feeling, like the sand on your skin.
Yes.
And I do volleyball tournaments all summer, so you're like
Mhm.
constantly sweating all day. You're paying through like the heat of the day, and to put sun cream on is again like painful halfway
Brutal.
through the day. I'm like, oh gosh, but it has to be done. So I might try the makeup brush approach. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah, maybe it'll be better. Who knows?
Yeah, I'll keep you posted. Cool.
So I saw that you wrote in your bio alongside your hobbies that you're also a self-published fiction author. What's up with
Yeah,
that?
yeah. That was so I studied in Falmouth in Cornwall, and I studied creative writing. And my end of course, I guess, like big dissertation was a 20,000 word short story. And my lecturer was like, I need more. Like, I need to know what happens here. So, Golden Boy is called, came off the back of a 20,000 word short story and now is like a normal size story. And yeah, so I had initially gone through a indie publishing house. And when you're not the favorite author, they don't do much once
Yeah.
you're published, so I said, hey, look, I'm going to take back this book and I'm going to self-publish it myself.
Mhm.
I've learned a lot from doing that, and now I would just self-publish every time because you keep so much more of your rights and you earn so much more on each sale. So yeah, I self-published in, I think, 2019 or 2018. I always forget that I've done it because I kind of like publish it and then like carried on with life.
Yeah.
uh and I want to write more, but I'm halfway through the second book now, and it's been on the shelf for like 2 years
Mhm.
because life just happens. So
Yeah.
yeah, I need
One
to
of our other
get into that.
guests, Shelby, said you can do anything, but you can't do everything.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really great saying. It's a good reminder because, like, you're starting an agency and you're building that. Like, you can't, I mean, you could do that and write a book, but like, do you want to play beach volleyball still? Like, you want a
Yeah.
life, you know?
It's so exhausting because, like, you know, as a writer, we're at our screens all day, we're with words
Mhm.
all day. And, you
Mhm.
know, I'm running an agency, but I'm also writing a lot still. And
Mhm.
so at the end of the day, I don't want to keep writing. I'm
No.
done. I'm so done. Um, so there's plans for DSLX in the future to become a publishing house. And that's what I really want us to work towards, and to publish, like, especially works from the neurodiverse community.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of like long-windedly getting back to writing fiction again. But yeah, I couldn't do both at the same time. No way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It's
Yeah.
also like you get to the end of the day sometimes after writing all day for your clients, and I'll go to like talk to even just my partner who I'm around all day every day, and I'm just don't have word, like the sentences are not forming. The
Yeah.
words are not coming out right.
I get that as well. You'll see that on this podcast. I will forget words easily. So
It's really
bear with
funny.
me.
It's like, oh, you're a writer and you forget words. It's like, yeah, bro, you try writing 3,000 words a
Yeah.
day.
There's nothing left in your head. Like, you are done. And I also,
Exactly.
so I live in Spain, so I often switch languages depending on who I'm talking to. You know, I'll come from lunch and I'll have been having lunch in Spanish, and then I'll come back to trying to write English, and I'm like, warm up, come on, Ray, like English brain, like tapping it into sense, and sometimes it's just not there. So,
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely interesting. So, what did you do before you started your agency?
um, so I was in content and social media for about a decade, showing my age, but I literally like stepped into social media straight out of university, and it was kind of like the birth of the influencers, like very early stage influencers.
Mhm.
The social media agency I was with were responsible for, I don't know if it was big in the States. Like, this campaign was big in the UK, and it was Marc Jacobs' tweet shop, and it was a pop-up shop from Marc Jacobs, and you would go in and you would tweet that you were in the store, and you would get a gift depending on the number of followers you had on Twitter. So
Oh,
this was like the first concept of social currency, and, you know, getting rewarded for the more followers you had.
yeah.
I don't even think we were calling them influencers. Like, it was not a thing.
That's
Um,
so interesting.
yeah, really like exciting time to be in social. It was really like
Yeah.
moving really fast, and brands were just starting to build brand accounts, and Instagram was those huge borders around and super heavy filters. But yeah, I was in content and social for about a decade, and then the pandemic happened, and I was working for a co-working space, so that was not great.
Mhm.
And they cut my hours to 70%, and so I started freelance writing for a year to make up those hours. And then by
Mhm.
the end of that first lockdown, I was earning more freelance writing than I was for my full-time gig, and I was like,
Oh, yeah.
oh, hang on a second, there's something over here. Was freelance writing for a year, and then clients kept coming, and I'd
Mhm.
kind of fallen into my niche, because I was being referred between all of these SaaS businesses, and they were like, Ray, I heard you're super, super busy. Do you have time for another client? And I was like, ooh, like, I'm being considered as busy. Great. So then I started DSLX after about a year of freelance writing, and I knew it was going to be bigger than me.
Yeah.
And have had the agency in July will be 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I
It's
didn't realize it's been that
gone
long.
by. Yeah. Me
Yeah.
either. When I say it out loud, I'm like, wow. Yeah. How did that happen? But yeah, it's coming up 3 years in July. It's crazy.
Wow. Yeah. I feel like a lot of us who went full time freelance during the pandemic had that same realization as you were like after a few months. It's like, oh, I could make so much more than this than I was doing whatever I was doing before. I was a barista part time.
Oh,
I
cool.
say part time, but it was like 35 hours. It was always like just under 40 hours so they could say you're part time.
Wow.
And I was freelancing on the side on Upwork, which was I don't recommend don't
No.
recommend that
Yeah.
path. And as soon as the pandemic hit, they laid everybody off, and all my coworkers got like $600 a week of unemployment because the US government was doing
Oh
COVID relief.
no.
And I didn't get it because I was part-time freelancing, and they were like, well, you have a job, you don't need unemployment, even though I lost all my clients. So it turned into this whole crazy thing where I ended up sort of going full-time freelance because I was like forced to do it. But like, thank God for that fire under my ass, because look where I am now, you know? And I tripled my income in 3 months, and I was so busy, and I'm so happy with it. And now it's gotten to the point, I've been doing this for what? I started a sponsored blog in 2017 for my Appalachian Trail thru hike.
Okay.
And back then, this was before Instagram had stories or anything. Stories came out while I was on trail. So I was like pushing it through my Instagram, and I had like an Instagram account that was like quickly growing. And it's so funny because you could not do this now.
No.
Like, there's no way any brand would pay for you to have a blog and an Instagram that is just photos and journal entries. Like, it would never happen now.
No.
It's so funny. But like, that was how I did it, because I got on trail and realized like, oh my God, I can't even afford to make it like halfway. I made it like 500 miles, and I was like, I am going to run out of money soon.
Yeah. Well, good for you. Good for you that you managed that, because that's awesome.
It was insane. I wasn't going to I wasn't going to quit was the thing.
Yeah.
Like, it was going to happen no matter what. I was going to make it happen. And same thing with freelance. Like, I never thought it wouldn't work. And I always was like, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to make it work. I was only doing part-time because I was too scared to quit my barista job, because it was like guaranteed cash.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Cash tips. And you don't necessarily like have to pay taxes on your cash tips.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. And like, I had the same mentality when I first moved to Barcelona. I was like, I'm going to make this work. No matter what. I used to have nightmares that I would have to sleep on the beach, that I would be homeless, and I would be too proud to tell my parents that I'd like lost my job. So you just, when you love something so passionately, or you just really want it to work, you figure it out. And
yes.
like, that's the problem, is that we get so comfortable inside our bubbles that are working, that if someone doesn't push us out, then we will never know what we can achieve. So like, you were pushed out of your comfort zone, and I was like pushed out of my comfort zone, but look at us now. Good for us. Like, thank you for that kick, because we would not have left otherwise.
I'm always saying, like, I'm really actually grateful for like, I feel bad for anyone who was negatively affected by the pandemic. And I wouldn't say I wasn't negatively affected, but for me, like, it pushed me to go full-time freelance. Dope. It pushed me to focus on that one thing and only that one thing, because there was nothing else to do. And I only had like 3 friends, because I had just moved to North Carolina.
Perfect. Welcome to business.
So it's just like, what else are you gonna do but focus on your work?
Yeah, that's so true. I was the same. Like, pandemic, I was like, well, I'm not going out. I'm saving money, but I may as well try and make more. Like, there's nothing else that I could be doing, and I don't have any FOMO because no one else is doing anything.
Yes.
So I had a lot of friends that sat still in the pandemic, and I am not one of those people that can sit. I need a day, and then I'm like, okay, let's do something. So I dived straight in, and it was a great time because I was not missing out on anything. I was just like, okay, I'll make money, I'll save, I'll build something.
Yeah.
It kept us busy.
FOMO's so funny. Like, the idea of FOMO at all. And I used to get FOMO all the time.
Yeah.
Especially when I was living alone, because I was just like, there's no one to share it with. I was traveling full time alone for like a year, and I would meet up with people, but mostly I was just alone all the time. And I was just like, what am I doing out here? Like, I'm in the coolest place ever, and I'm still feeling FOMO.
Yeah.
Like, that road trip was the realization for me that like, oh, FOMO is you. It's your consumption of social media.
100%.
It's your idea of adventurous enough. It's your idea of enough, really.
Yeah.
Not,
Nothing else even needs to be going on. It's just, it comes back to that old expression of like, is the grass greener on the other side? You don't even need to see the other side, but you're still curious. Like, oh, are they having more fun than me? Are they doing something that, no, normally they're not, No. I don't get FOMO anymore. Like, I'm so happy on my own. I'm so at peace in my space. And I have friends that are like, oh, this person's over here, this person's over there. Good for them. Let them go and enjoy it. Like, I'm good here. I'm really good here. Thank
Do you
you.
think that is like age and experience, or
100%.
like,
That's
yeah,
age.
yeah,
That's just age. Like, I'm just older now, and I just like don't have the energy. I don't know how I did it at university. I had like 3 jobs to pay for my university, and was going out, doing sports clubs, doing a degree. And
yeah.
now, if I have one meeting in a day, I have no time for anything else. I have no time.
Same. I look at my university self and I'm like, she was not okay, but B, like, I could do like 2 of those things now, not
Yeah.
all the 12 that I was like, it's like spinning plates like crazy. Yeah.
I do think the pandemic slowed everyone down a lot, and I do think that we all started to appreciate a slower pace of life that we didn't necessarily want to go back to afterwards. I think before it was just like that was all we knew, and then we realized in the pandemic, oh, like I can still survive and I don't have to be sprinting all the time. Okay, good. Let's try this slower pace. And I think that suited a lot of us now. So I do think that changed a lot of people.
Yeah,
But for me,
for
age.
sure. I hear that. I hear it. It's happening. I occasionally still get FOMO and I'll be like, you like
That's a me problem.
Yeah, that's a me problem. That's internal.
Yeah.
So what about the dyslexia piece? Why did you decide to found an agency, called DSLX, and B, like, what types of writers are you guys working with, and why is that so important to you?
Yeah. So when I decided that this freelance business could be bigger than me, and I was like, okay, I'm going to launch something. I was like, I don't want to launch something for the sake of launching it and make money for the sake of making money. If I'm going to do a business, I may as well do something good with it. And so I was like, okay, what do I know? What can I relate to? I'm dyslexic. I'm gay. I'm 2 parts of a minority in a tech space that has looked the same for so many years. And I was like, this feels right to me. So I really, really, really struggled throughout school, loving storytelling and being told I wasn't good at it, until I got to university and I had a dyslexia screening and I found out I'm dyslexic. And then I was like, oh, this explains everything.
Yeah.
And I never want another dyslexic person to be told they can't write because of who they are. And that has now grown to, I never want another neurodiverse person to be told they can't do something because of who they are. So DSLX started on the dyslexic front, on what I can really relate to and my experiences. And it's grown since then. And it's not that we only hire dyslexic writers, right? That would be so biased, and like legally, I don't think we're allowed to do that. But I want people to know in our messaging, in everything that we show up front, that in-house you're entirely welcome to bring your truest self to the board, and you can be neurodiverse and we will champion that. Like, I've had to hide my dyslexia in job applications. I would never, like, working in social media and being dyslexic, people would be like, absolutely not. So
yeah, I was gonna say, like, advertising from a place of like having dyslexia, like, to me, now that I know that I had, like, I found out in college as well that I had it, and like, knowing that you have it makes it a lot easier to deal with it. And I don't think that it should be a problem when it comes to writing, but then I think about my clients and selling myself, and I'm like, I would never tell my clients that I have dyslexia.
Right.
And I was just like, I was very surprised that was how you're doing marketing. And I also was like, finally, thank God somebody else is doing it. Because I was talking to my therapist actually on Monday this week, and I was just telling her, we're trying to figure out my like ADHD diagnosis and like what to do about it. And she was like, just explain to me like how it affects your life, how it's affected your past and things like that. And I started explaining to her like my dyslexia and how apparently for some women dyslexia is actually like a symptom of having ADHD. It's not necessarily like you might get diagnosed with dyslexia, but it's not actually that you're not that your brain has like the dyslexia scramblies. It's actually that you're not paying close enough attention to what you're doing, and so I was explaining to her the way that I write when I write by hand is I write the sounds I hear and then I fill in the other one. So like vowels almost always come second. So it's like consonants and like the loud sounds. Like your name is Ray, so I know it starts with an A, and it's great because that's my nickname is Ray. It's perfect. I was like, oh, this guy, never forget his name. But say like the name Garrett, I think of the letter R. Because that's the sound. That's the loudest, hardest sound. And then there's G. So I would write the 2 R's, the G, go back into the 2 T's, and then fill in the A and the E as I'm like writing on paper. I didn't know I did this. I learned this during the whole like screening process. I was like, wow, I'm a weirdo. And that explains why every time I try to type on a computer, it doesn't come out in the right order. And I have all these like spelling mistakes and issues. And I was explaining this to my therapist, and she was like, wow, you really just do life on hard mode.
Yeah.
You just like stop and acknowledge how hard you have made your own life. Like you decided to be a writer. After that.
Yeah. It's so true. Honestly, that is, well, one, I didn't know what you said about it being a symptom of ADHD, but 2, I cannot relate more to your own version of dyslexia and how you hear and convey what's going on in here onto the page.
Yeah.
I'm the same in that I have my own wacky way of thinking, but like I'm so visual. So a lot of people will see words in their heads and I will see like images. And then I will try and explain what I'm seeing. And whenever I try and explain a complicated situation, I'll use like a visual analogy. And my tutor throughout university was like, you are like, how did you not realize you're dyslexic earlier? Like, ridiculous. I'd be like, well, you see, there's a tree. And then with this tree, there's like 7 branches, right? And this one's the longest. And she's like, Ray, come on. I'm like, what? And I didn't know it was a thing. So
I'm always using analogies. It's really funny. Like constantly. They're the best thing there is to explain a concept. And it's funny too, because we'll overcomplicate anything if you have to use an analogy to explain it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so now that challenge has been simplifying that analogy into writing. But I do genuinely believe that it gives my writing a unique visual take because I'm now like, I'm bringing this weird concept onto a page and making it digestible. So I do think it is a strength. And what DSLX is trying to do is teach other people that it can be a strength for them. And they just need to figure out how to make it their strength and then how to convey that to their potential clients. You can be like, hey, look, I'm dyslexic, which means I'm a better communicator. I'm really imaginative. I'm super creative. I'm a great problem solver. Like I have all of these power skills because I'm dyslexic. So that's like the big point for me. And I'm trying to empower more people like you to say like, hey, yeah, I'm dyslexic. And this is what makes me really good because I'm dyslexic. Like this is what I'm really good at. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I love that. That's really, it's a fresh hot take, really.
It was something that I hid and now I'm really trying to like wave a flag for, and it is attracting the right type of clients to DSLX as well, because we have more empathetic, understanding, considerate clients. Whereas in the past, when I didn't push it so much, especially in my freelance days, I was getting clients that were like not my people and not my tribe. And now I feel like any client that I get that comes to DSLX, we would really get on outside of work as well. They're just like a more cultural fit for me. So I do think it has helped in that.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think finding your ideal client can be really challenging. I was just talking to my friend Katie about this the other day, actually. She really had it in her mind that like this one specific type of client was like her ideal client, and this was going to be the ones she goes after. And then she finally got a huge retainer with one of them, and she got halfway through the retainer and was like, this is not my ideal client.
Really?
Like, it's hard because sometimes you can really relate to like whoever founded the company, but then what the company becomes after that, especially as a startup, it sort of morphs on its own. And we want to say we have control over company culture, and in a lot of ways we do.
Yeah.
But in a lot of ways we also kind of don't.
Yeah.
And that you can kind of see it sometimes. And so there's certain, like, I try to only work with startups after they've hit Series B funding or further.
Interesting.
Because
Yeah.
they're like driven for growth. They're organizing that growth team and the marketing part of it. And I'm not going to be the person who's having to go between people who are supposed to be C-suite, who are not doing their C-suite job and like meddling in the micromanaging. Like, they're beyond that. I won't have to deal with that. And they'll also have the funding to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
But it's those little things, like, I learned that from experience, and I learned that from someone who worked at startups who knew about series funding. Like, I didn't even know what that was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, oh, well, now I know I only want to work with people in the growth, you know? And these are the things that we learn, like people who value, people who are neurodivergent and have that difference in creativity and thinking are going to be so much more understanding to work with. Like, I feel like there's a big misconception from especially corporate companies and the buttoned up, straight-laced folks who are like, oh, well, if you're dyslexic, then I'm going to have to do a lot of editing on your work. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm dyslexic. That doesn't mean I don't know how to use Grammarly and like,
or
I know
with an
grammar.
editor. Like, I have learned, like, when I was at university, I got 4 years of coaching on how to edit my own work.
Yeah.
So I got trained on the types of mistakes I would commonly make and how to look out for them. So I walked out of that degree with so much knowledge on how I specifically write and how the problems or struggles that I would normally encounter because of my specific type of dyslexia. And you just have to learn how to work with it rather than trying to fight it. And then clients will either accept it or they'll reject it. But the ones that reject it, I don't want to work with, you know?
Yeah.
This is not my type of people. I want to enjoy my place of work. I want to enjoy the people I speak to on a day-to-day basis. And if you can't respect my dyslexia or any of my team's whatever, then I don't want to be in contact with you. So yeah.
No, I think this is a great hill to die on, to be honest.
Make it a mountain. Let's make it a big one.
It is. Yeah. So how did you get started? I thought about starting an agency actually last year, and earlier this year I was talking to one of my freelance friends about starting an agency together. And it kind of got to the point where I realized I don't really want to be responsible for other people yet.
Okay.
But I still have, like, every time I realize I need another client with writing, I don't even look, like, it happens to come to me now from referrals because I've just been doing this so long and I've built such a good pipeline. And I still network every single day. I go on LinkedIn and send new connection requests and follow-ups for at least 15 minutes each because I know I don't want to run out of potential clients.
Yeah.
But it got to the point where I was referring like 7 to 10 potential clients out to other people because I couldn't take on the work. And so I was like, I know I have the capacity to start an agency because I have the leads.
Yeah.
But do I want to deal with it?
Yeah.
So what made you decide to go from freelance writer to agency, and what did that process look like? How did you know you were ready?
I really want to know more on this, on your journey as well, because I'm curious to like pick your mind on that. Like, okay. So for me, after that year of freelance writing, and I was the same as you to the point where I was like struggling to keep up with the amount of work. And I said, okay, this can be bigger than me. And I said, I could really do something great here. So that was one thing, is being able to do something good with a business and make an impact. and be able to change like other neurodiverse people's lives. So that for me was really promising. Number two is that, and I'm sure you probably know this all too well, when you're freelancing as an individual, if you don't work, usually you don't get paid.
Yeah.
And so I got sick for an extended amount of time, about 9 months into my freelance journey, and no work was getting done,
Yeah.
So I had to squeeze like 2 months worth of work or 1 month's worth of work or whatever it was into like a week. And I was so burned out. I was working day and night just to ensure that I was delivering so that I could charge the full rate at the end of the month or the 2 months, whatever it was, kind of like black it out. But that for me was a big thing of like that security blanket of if I want to go on holiday or I get unwell, I'm not earning. At the end of the day, you're a service provider. You're not an employee. So we don't have like sick days that we can take. Or we don't have paid holiday that we can take. So that was a huge thing for me. And now, it has been a real, I wouldn't say struggle because I really enjoyed this process, but it's been a real journey. But now or maybe about 6 months ago, I was at a point where I can really walk away from the agency for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, or I can get sick and just message the team and be like, I'm out. Like I got a virus in January. I could not keep my eyes open from 1 hour to the next. And I just slacked my team like, guys, I think I have a virus. And then I was out all week. And the business kept ticking over, and when I was on holiday, I think 6 months ago, and I have access to our business account and you see cash coming in and you see invoices going out and you're like, what? Like, it's crazy to me. Like it's still earning money. Like the business is still earning money. And I didn't do anything for the last 2 weeks. Incredible. So for me, that was a big thing of like, sick days or holidays, to know that I have that security blanket and things can keep going, was a huge deciding factor for me, definitely.
I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel that big time. When I finished, well, I never had like set dates for how long I would do van life for and be on the road. I really thought I would do it much longer than I did. I did not have the appropriate vehicle to be doing that or the money coming in. And I was working like 17 hours a week because I wanted to be like rock climbing all the time and hiking and driving and doing all these crazy things. But when I got home from that, all I had been doing was email marketing for coding boot camps for that entire fucking year. And I was getting paid like $55 an hour because the majority of my work was like on retainer with 2 specific boot camps.
Right.
And I stopped. I got a very, very affordable Airbnb on the coast of Maine in the winter because, beach towns in Maine in the winter are absolutely dead. No one around. I knew nobody. I'd been there before in the summer like two times because I grew up in Maine.
Okay.
And I'm just in this like 6-bedroom beach house by myself. And this company, so my like I was a junior copywriter, hired as a junior copywriter on retainer. And I like convinced them they had a full-time job listing and I like convinced them to hire me instead as a contractor because I didn't want a full-time job. And I was like, I could do this. I could do it for $55 an hour. Just hire me.
Yeah.
And then like the senior copywriter quit and they were like, oh, well, Rachel can just do his job. And I was like, yeah, okay. But I'm just going to have to do more hours. It's going to cost you more. And they were like, okay, whatever. And then the email marketing manager quit. And they were like, oh, well, Rachel can just do her job.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, that's not the same
as 3 people.
Right? Yeah. And I was just like, I don't have that's a full-time job.
Yeah.
And I talked to the CEO and I was like, dude, you need to hire another person because I can't do all this work. And B, like my rate is now $75 an hour, which is excessively reasonable for what they were asking me to do.
Right.
And they were like, that's a huge pay leap. That's bigger than our internal pay raise structure. And I was like, I'm not an employee.
Yeah.
I don't think you understand.
You don't get all those benefits. You don't get all that security that they get.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, listen, you're either going to pay me $75 an hour or I'm canceling this contract, because I have the authority to do that because you signed my contract. And in it, it says either party, I don't have to give you 2 weeks notice. I don't have to give you any notice. I can stop working today.
Yeah.
And he finally agreed, like last minute, that he would pay me $75 an hour for a month so that they could find somebody else to replace me.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out like 6 months later, they never found anybody to replace me. But that whole experience, I was so burnt out from constantly traveling and being like stressed out from like living van life and never taking breaks, and then also working that contract for a year. And I just got to a point where I was like, I don't want to write anymore. I have like a community for freelance writers where I like give resources and workshops, and I like coach people on starting their business. And I had been doing that for like 2 years at that point, and I loved it. And I just thought it would be so nice if I could make a course and sell it like semi-passively so that I don't have to constantly be doing live coaching. I could just run the community, because I had been doing like live group coaching as well for like beginners. So I was turning that live group coaching into a course. And the whole time I was doing all this, I was just like, I'm going to die. And I got to that beach house and I just turned everything off, and I slept for like a month and a half. And thank God I had savings.
Yeah.
But I could not do that now. Like, I couldn't afford to do that now.
Yeah.
And looking back, like, I needed that break more than I've ever needed sleep in my life.
Yeah.
And it's like your brain can't do it. Like, you can be awake, but you cannot write anymore. I couldn't write anything. I couldn't handle it. And there's just something like, you can't bring yourself to open your computer and go into Slack and talk to these people about how you're not going to go to work today. Yeah. So as soon as that contract ended, I just like took 2 months off. And the whole time I was just thinking like, well, if I had a course, I could be making semi-passive income right now. Or if I had an agency, I wouldn't have to be doing it this way. And I'd been thinking about both options for so long. And finally, like the first day I started feeling good, I got up and I immediately started writing that course.
Good for you, yeah.
And then I got to fast forward to now, and I'm dismantling the course and putting it on YouTube and turning it into an ebook, because I just like, I didn't test product market fit.
Okay.
It didn't sell very well, and I got tired of selling it. I don't want to do launches. I just want to be like, P.S. here's my community. You want to join. You need some one-on-one coaching, give me a call. Yeah. I don't want to be
I'm
like
done.
I love helping people get started freelance writing. Seeing people change their lives the way that I was able to with freelance writing has been so rewarding and beautiful. The community is amazing. And you know why it's amazing? Because there's product market fit. You know why there's product market fit? Because every 3 months I'm like, hey guys, what do you want to see? What do you need from me? How are you doing? How can I make this better? Whereas with the course, it's just like this thing, and you just give it to them and you're like,
pay me.
Was it good? Yeah. Do you like? And I just like, I don't think I went about it quite the right way, but at the same time, like, I don't want to have to sell a course every 4 months. I don't want to have to like do this launching and all this stuff that goes along with having a course. I just want like, let's put it on YouTube. Yeah. You guys deserve to learn how to be a beginner. Like,
it's so interesting what you're saying. And I get it, like, this is with the idea of going for passive income as well, right? And so that's
the real problem.
Yes. And so DSLX has been trying to diversify our income streams, because I'm sure you also saw it, but the last year was like dire, especially in tech content, and we lost like 85% of our clients overnight, and like teams were getting cut left, right, and center. We lost our contact points at these businesses, and I said we can't put all of our eggs in these baskets again, one basket again. So at the beginning of this year, we launched the DSLX Academy. So the Academy is courses, but like micro courses and there is no launch. So where we see a problem in our day-to-day as writers, we'll do like a 1-hour session on, hey, this is a thing, this is how we're addressing it, blah, blah, blah. Put it in the academy, it's live, people can use it there and then within that month. You know, it's not like I did a course on the art of storytelling and it took me a year to do. I can't do that again. Like, it took me way too long to do. So we're trying to do like mini courses that are just really relevant. And we're not making money off of it. Like, I'm charging for it, but it's not profitable. So it's like $14 per month for a writer. The platform that it's on is Teachable. It costs me like $47 a month, and we have like 3 writers in there. So it's not actually making any money. But what it is doing, it was actually intended as a HR strategy for me for DSLX, because we always struggle to find like writers that write in our style, writers that we know, that we've read their work before. Like, screening writer applications takes weeks. And now I have this academy of 3 writers that are in there. I've read all of their work. I know the courses they've taken, and I can be like, hey, do you want to work with me on this project? So although we're making a loss on the academy, I see that it's a benefit to the business, because we're essentially losing we're losing like $10 a month at the moment to have access to 3 writers that we now are training, and
now you're paying them.
And now we can like tap into them, right? And see like, hey, are you available next month? Like, we have a project that could be a fit for you. So but that came from the idea of like generating passive income. Maybe it will earn more in the future, maybe it won't, I don't know. Maybe I'll pack it in 6 months, I don't know. Right now I'm like really enjoying the process of building it. But I don't know if that would still be the case, you know?
It might. So what renewed my happiness with my group program and how I'm running it now is that, like, in October or so, a lot happened in October. I started dating someone new. And I think there's something about just like falling in love that just fully propels everything in you to just be your best self.
Go up.
I like moved here in September, started dating someone in October, and I was like, life is good, man. It just cannot get better. So I guess like in the fall, I started to realize what I'm doing is not working for me anymore. Trying to sell this course. I have this community that I love and that has always worked. And I never thought I could make enough money off of it because it was $33 a month. So I was like, you know, because I didn't want to charge, you can't charge too much for community because no one's going to want to join it. So I was just kind of like at a loss as for what to do. And I was marketing on Instagram, which I never want to market on Instagram again. That is my least favorite thing in the world.
Yeah, it's tough.
So much effort. So I went on LinkedIn and just like wrote a rant about some bullshit job listing I saw. It was like a gig listing for freelancers that had just so many red flags in it. And overnight, I got like 1,000 new followers on LinkedIn. And I've been using LinkedIn to get writing clients for years, like since the pandemic, basically, is when I started like developing my method of getting clients on LinkedIn, which is like a whole thing I do now. And I was like, wow, I didn't even know you could really do content marketing on LinkedIn like this. So I went off. I went all in on content marketing on LinkedIn. And then I started working with a business coach. Well, I work with this business coach every year, first quarter, to like get over my brain and get back into my business and decide like what I'm going to do differently this year.
Nice.
And she is my favorite person in the world. She's been on my podcast as well, Marie. She was like, well, if it's not serving you, why don't you just like put it to rest? I've put my first program to rest and I'm perfectly happy with that. It was the right decision. And I was just like, I spent like 2 years making this. I can't just throw it away. And she was like, it's not serving you. So that's how I decided that I was going to put it on YouTube, and it's going to start coming out soon. I'm still figuring out how I want to edit it and things like that. But it's been so freeing. And then I started seeing all of these other communities that are like $10 a month, $9 a month, $30 a month. And I started looking at them and what they're doing and realizing like one of them has 1,200 members.
Wow.
$10 a month? That's like over $10,000 a month.
Wow, yeah.
And then another one, the other one that I'm in is there's a $9 a month one that I'm in about specifically about email marketing, which by the way is like the most helpful $9 I spend every month.
Really?
She has like 5,000 members. You do the math.
Yeah,
she has a full-time program assistant and her, just a 2-person team. And this community is awesome. And it's not even that community focused. It's more about like she sends a template every week so to help you with your newsletter, and she has like a library of templates, and she has a few like mini courses.
Right.
And I looked at her and I was like, that's what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
Fuck all this perfect course, passive income, silver bullet bullshit.
Yeah. That's great.
I want that.
Yeah.
Yes. So like, okay, you're charging $14 a month and you're at a loss right now. I was at a loss on my program, on my community for like years, 2 years. But as soon as you start putting an effort into it and you really like, the people get to know each other and they start talking about you, and you really like, it's not just about, it can be mostly about the courses.
Yeah.
As long as each person meets one other person in there that they're like, wow,
it's a community.
Helpful person to know. There you go.
Yeah.
And it will grow. And now my community has been growing by like 4 or 5 members a month, which is insane. My goal this year was to get 2 new members every month.
Great.
I'm getting like 4 or 5.
Okay.
Very happy with that. And it's so much better. Like, find what fulfills you. You know what I mean? Like, you have to follow that. Just like you followed your drive to like, the why behind what you're doing with your agency is so much more important than the fact that you decided to start an agency.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Like,
yeah.
The reason me starting an agency wasn't going to work, I think partially was that like I really wasn't motivated. I was just doing it because I was like, I know I have enough leads and I don't really know what else to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted that insurance, like you said, that if I can't work all the time, it'll be okay. But the community does that.
Mm-hmm.
I have hosts. I have 4 freelancers who host co-working events in the community to continue to build the community. All those events are free. They're open to the public. Anyone can come, even if you're not in the community. But those hosts are in the community and share those within the community. And then I have like 35 members now, which is insane.
Yeah.
And that whole thing, I have an assistant who does the podcast and the YouTube, and eventually I'd like to get an assistant for my community specifically once it's a little bit bigger and I can afford that. But that's like just as much insurance as having an agency is what I realized. And I don't really want to be responsible for other people. And also figuring out, so you started your agency on your own, right? Like you are the sole founder owner.
Yeah.
I was going to start it with my friend, and I love this friend so much. She's the best. We're still friends. Everything's fine. But we were like talking to lawyers and like trying to set up our LLC. And I started to realize, I was like, okay, so I would be bringing in the clients and doing the strategy, and she would be managing the writers and making sure that like our deliverables are good to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, how do we split this?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're both like, this should be 50-50. But at some point, it's just not going to be 50-50 anymore. And I am just like too scared that I am going to explode our friendship and our business if this is 50-50. It's not going to go well. And we kept talking about it, and I was like, but it should be 50-50. And at the end of the day, I was just like, I'm too scared that I'm not going to feel good at the end of the day about this. And part of it is also that like there was no mission really. It was just like me and my friend want to do something different than what we're doing now. It didn't feel like the right time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think it's the difference there is that it's your friend. I am the owner of DSLX. When I launched, I had been working with a freelance writer for a year previously who was my intern at a previous job. So I had already worked with her for 7 or 8 months on her internship. Worked with her throughout my freelancing career, like sending a couple of briefs every now and again. Yeah. And this, I was like, all my clients were aware of this. Hey, I'm going to trial out working with this person. When I went to launch DSLX, she was just finishing university, and I said, hey, have you got plans? What's going on after university? And she's like, oh, I haven't got much plans. I want to take the summer low key, but obviously I'll need to fund it. And I was like, right, I'm going to launch DSLX. I really think that you'll be a great fit, and I really want you to be part of it. So would you be interested in coming on for 20 hours a week? So part-time for summer, and then we can review it at the end of summer and see if things are going well. Maybe we could put you on full-time. And so Ella, and her name is, and Ella's been with me ever since, and has been like my biggest rock throughout all of this, has been the best support throughout all of this. But we came to it from a professional background. So we didn't have a friendship to put on the line.
On the line, yeah.
And we knew we could work together because we have worked together before, and we kind of like eased into it really slowly. So yeah, coming up to 3 years, and Ella has been there from day one. So I say that I'm the founder, but like I have not been on my own since day one. I've definitely had like a huge support. I'm so thankful that I had Ella so early on. And yeah, I think that was what is a big part of what has enabled me to get this far, is having like that partner in crime that but has come from the professional angle. Like I can't think of any friend that I would have launched DSLX with, because I don't know, they're friends, you know, like it just doesn't work the same, I don't think.
I've come to realize that working with friends is really challenging, and sometimes it goes really well and it's great, and sometimes it does. Most of the time, I've had one friend that I've worked with where I'm like, this is awesome, I'd work with you anytime. Paid her invoice immediately. It was consulting. She knew it was last minute. She paid me a rush fee. Like, she suggested the rush fee herself. She knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
And she was kind about it.
Yeah.
And the majority of my friends, I'm just like, that I have tried to work with, a lot of my friends will ask me to like make their website, because I used to do web design and coding. And so I'll just make them like simple websites that they can edit themselves later or whatever for a nice fee that's not too expensive for them. It's like, $1,500 for websites, really cheap.
Yeah, and a great like complementary skill for you as well. Like,
yeah. I'm like, I could just have a website agency, and then I'm like, fuck,
a whole other
it's a whole other thing. But like, there's so many the ways that you could go about this, but I have just learned that like maybe doing it with your friends is not what I want to do. I really struggled to make friends growing up. I was a very lonely child. I spent a lot of time alone because I had a chronic illness. So like going to school, there were multiple school years where I just like 90% of the school year wasn't there. I was just homeschooled with a tutor. And that was life. It was just kind of lonely. And then when I started moving around after college and after through hiking, I really started to like understand how to make friends and like what I want from friendship and what it could look like. I feel like I really overthought it.
Yeah.
And then when I did start making friends, I was like, friends, everything. And now I'm like a normal person with friends. I'm not a weirdo. And I'm just like, right, I think I want my friends to be my friends and work to be work, and maybe just like don't want to blur that line anymore.
Yeah, I think the only, like, me and my friends will always support each other in our work, but we'll never really be part of it. And I've met friends in the office, in-house and things, and we're still friends today, and we're like bonded by office traumas. But the furthest we go is like going to each other's events and going and supporting them and sitting in the audience or whatever it is. But I couldn't imagine doing business with them, like actually operating in business with them. I like the disconnect. Like I like to go to them and vent, or go to them and have them not understand a thing about what I do, and that's my benefit, because then I can't talk about work with them. I'm like, okay, you don't understand, so great, like let's talk about something else and let me disconnect.
Yeah, I think that's what the online community is good for. Like I can talk to these people about the struggles we're having, and then when I am with my friends, we're just talking about friend stuff and life and normal things. Like our work shouldn't dictate outside of our work hours. I mean, people say like do what you love and you'll never work, and I do understand that to an extent, but at the same time I also feel like
we need a healthy disconnect, and our friends can really help us do that, or our partners are really good at doing that because they don't want to hear about our struggles either. They want to disconnect. So it's like, I think it's really healthy boundaries that we need to keep in place.
Yeah. I live with my partner now.
Oh, cool.
And where his office is the other side of that wall behind me. He's out of town right now, which is kind of nice right now because we have been together every single day, all day since we moved in here in February, and I just hear his voice constantly because he works from home. I work from home. We'll talk about where it's hard. We're trying to find the line of like the work-life separation. Yeah. And I think we're starting to figure it out. Like if we want to hang out after work, we need to go do something. We like go for a run. He'll run while I roller skate and he'll like try to keep up with me. It's really funny.
I love that. I love roller skating. Cool.
It's a good like transition. You need to have a transition. Like we go out to dinner or we go for a run or we go for a walk or take a drink on the porch to get away, you know?
I did an article a few months back on life-work balance that was specifically talking to, and I interviewed a few freelancers that work from home and how we can get that disconnect. And a great one that someone suggested was they have like an afterworks playlist that they put on when their work is done. And it kind of like mental models in your mind. You start hearing this music and you're like, okay, we're done. Like this is the disconnect. This is the vibe. And then you successfully are able to disconnect from work. So if you don't fancy going out, like going and spending money on a dinner or whatever, and you want to stay at home, like it's raining outside, for example, try the playlist because I've done that. And suddenly I'm like, I don't want to work. Like I'm in my mood. I'm like disconnected. So try it. It's a really useful one.
That's a really good idea. Yeah. I am going to try that. I'm going to make the first song Closing Time.
Thanks, Sinatra. I did it my way.
That's amazing. That's such a good idea. It reminds me of when during COVID, I would fake commute. I had a Prius and it was like mostly electric in town because it was like 30 miles per hour the whole way to my old cafe. So I'd drive to the old cafe and like listen to the music or podcasts I normally would on my way to work and on my way back. And I would like stop in the convenience store and just get like a water bottle or something, like anything, just like a gum, something. I would just like get out of my car for a few seconds and then drive back home. And it helped so much. Yeah,
it really does. I think we were so conscious of looking after our mental health in the pandemic, and we've kind of let that go now. But for example, I was at a conference, like an online conference the other day, and they had a break at about 6 p.m. and they had a DJ come on and DJ on this conference for half an hour. And it just sent me back to the pandemic. Like I got like lockdown vibes, and it kind of freaked me out that I was taken there, and I was like quite anxious to be taken there. But at the same time, listening to that DJ, I was like, oh wow, like this has really helped me disconnect from work. And then they went back into the conference and I clicked out because I was done. Like I had clocked out. But those mental models are in there still from the pandemic, like those old habits those healthy habits that we invented, right, for our mental health are still in there. So if you tap back into them, it's like riding a bike and it will really help. I think we need to lean on them more.
Yeah. Wow. The things we remember. Is your battery dying?
I'm on 8%.
Oh my god.
I don't know why my charge is not. It like fell to the floor just as I was setting up, and I don't have a backup.
Well, we should do a part 2 regardless. I feel like I talked to you forever.
I'm so bad. Like.
Well, before it dies, at least tell us what you're promoting right now, your academy, your agency. How can people work with you and find you on the internet?
Yeah, thank you. So promoting the academy right now. The academy is a $14 a month subscription, courses that we create on the fly because we're writers doing it every day. So we're like, we create content that we use internally to train our own team, and then we say, why don't we publish this as well? Like this should also help other people. So the academy is a big thing that we're doing, and there's a lot of stuff going on in there. I'm also a yoga teacher, so I have a yoga section of the academy that's specifically aimed at freelance writers. So the other day I did a leg day yoga session for those that didn't leave the house.
I love
That was me. And then I've done like yoga for back pain. I'll do yoga for your wrist because we get like keyboard cramps and things like that. So really specific yoga classes in there too, which I love.
Cool.
And
I've thought about
then,
becoming a yoga instructor. You're
I
inspiring
feel like
me.
you would do really well. I feel like you would find
I
your vibe in it,
Yeah.
definitely.
I go to yoga every week and I'm like, this could make me friends.
Yeah. Some of my best friends are from my yoga classes, like without doubt.
Yeah.
Actually, the first rendition of DSLX, the monsters were put together by someone that I met on a yoga retreat. Like it's weird because you're doing yoga alongside like CEOs or graphic designers or other writers, and you don't know, you connect on a yoga level, and then they're like, "Oh, Ray, like I need a content agency." Actually, I'm like, I was just teaching you how to get into downward dog, and now we're working together. It's great.
Nice.
So yeah, Academy is a big thing I'm doing, and then we also just released this year a new service, which I guess is the other thing that I'd be promoting now, which is it's management of LinkedIn for C-suite staff. So people are really struggling to like keep up with content creators on LinkedIn now, like content creators that are just normal people in normal jobs but are having to create content, and it's on like so many businesses to-do lists for their people to be talking more on LinkedIn, and those people just don't have the time or the know-how. So we are interviewing a member of C-suite for 1 hour at the beginning of every month, and then we're taking that 1 hour session and turning it into content for the entire month, managing commenting where it's needed, and managing their inbox for them as well, like filtering out all of that sales rubbish and just forwarding on the stuff that's really useful to them. So that's a new service that we've done, and it's starting to pick up pace now. So I'm excited to see where that one goes because I find it really interesting.
That's so cool. I'm just waiting for someone to create a LinkedIn analytics tool that's actually useful, unlike the one that's built in. I'm talking to this one. Actually, I'll connect you with her. Her name's Dana. She is working on building one.
Cool.
And she keeps reaching out to me being like, what do you want from it? What do you want to see? What do you need? And I'm like, I need all of these things. Please make it amazing.
Please connect me because I have a list.
Same.
So if someone else is already on that, I will fully support.
Yeah, hell yeah. I'll definitely get you in touch with her.
Nice.
Oh, amazing. I don't want to stop talking to you. This is
I
such
know,
a good episode.
I'm so sad. I'm like watching this percentage die. I'm on 5% and the charge is not. I'm going to have to go to the Apple Store.
Oh man. All right. Well, good luck at the Apple Store, and maybe you can come on again because we could talk for hours, I'm sure.
Yeah, let's do a part 2 in a couple of months because I would love to catch up with you, and I feel like we scraped the surface today.
I know. Sounds great.
Okay, well, thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.